Again, welcome. This is going to be a workshop on MapRoulette. It's mainly going to be me kind of showing you how to do things. It's going to be pretty practical. You could try and follow along if you want. If you have a laptop with the right things on it, you need JASM. You need a terminal with Node and npm installed. If you don't have that, don't worry at all. It's completely okay to just follow along. I'll pause at a few points in the workshop to just kind of interact with you all and answer questions that happen in the meantime that come up during the various aspects of various parts of the presentation. So let me get started by setting the stage here a little bit. I am the original sort of creator of MapRoulette, although at this point I don't do a lot of the actual development anymore, but I made the original version, and I'm still very closely involved with all the development. MapRoulette is an open source tool to get the community to help you or help each other with all kinds of small tasks to clean up and improve OpenStreetMap. Basically, what it's about is connecting volunteer mappers with easy-to-do tasks that can be accomplished in a small amount of time. In that sense, it's a little bit similar to tools like Map Complete, which you might have heard of yesterday, Street Complete, which is, of course, a mobile app if you've heard of it. If you haven't, I think Tobias is actually talking in a parallel session right now about Street Complete, which I find an absolutely excellent tool. Also a little bit similar to the tasking manager, but the tasking manager is more focused on performing work on an area rather than a single OSM object or feature. It is global. There's tasks all across the world. You can find them at MapRoulette.org. There's currently a little over 2 million tasks online across 4,300 different topics, which we call challenges. And those range from anything from aligning roads to improving POIs to improving waterways, coastlines. Anything you can imagine that people feel like could use help in improving OSM is represented. I'm going to switch really quick to my conference tab, so you can see if there's any questions at the moment. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? I guess since I'm full screen on another window, that doesn't work very well. Let me just for now continue. Let me see if I can fix this real quick. I don't know where it went. Sorry for this. I'm going to try and fix that. There we are. Okay, I think we're all good. Okay, this is always great to see, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to continue. So, a little bit of MapRoulette continued. The numbers, we have about 3,300 mappers visiting MapRoulette each month across many countries, over 100. Like I said, over 2 million tasks, or 2 million tasks already fixed since in MapRoulette. About 100,000 currently are being solved a month. 40 minutes people spend actually quite a bit of time on MapRoulette.org once they get involved with solving tasks. So 40 minutes people spend on the site on average. And the core of MapRoulette is basically those groups of tasks that are about one particular topic, right, which we call challenges. And the nice thing about that is anyone can create them, and that's what this workshop is really about. It is designed to be simple. With great power comes great responsibility, though. So if you want to create challenges, of course, you have to be sure to make tasks that are actually improving OSM by giving good instructions. I'll go into sort of the golden rules of creating challenges at the very end, but I just want to impress upon you that creating a challenge is a big responsibility. You asking mappers to help with this, solve a certain set of issues on OSM. So you have to be really aware that mappers are going to be following your instructions, and those instructions have to be really clear. Again, I'll go back to those golden rules in the end, because I find those really, really important. You can use your own GeoJSON file or an overpass query to power MapRoulette with your tasks, with the tasks geometries. You can add custom base maps, you can add your own instructions, and we'll see all that in action in a little bit. And then you see on the right, you have a challenge dashboard with lots of statistics and management functionality included. So this is what we're going to be talking about. So challenge types, right? There's 3 types of challenges, and I think a lot of you might not know this because this is a newer aspect of MapRoulette. The regular or classic challenges, as I want to call them, are about mappers really being on their own, right? You supply the task locations, mappers go into ID or JOSM and perform the fixes, right? You only ask them to do a certain thing, like align this road or improve this coastline at this location, and then mappers basically have to figure out what that means and how to do that in the editor. And that's how MapRoulette started. But gradually we introduced over the past year 2 additional types of challenges, which will be the focus of the workshop today. So we have Tag-Fix challenges, which basically are about updating tags or improving the tagging on OSM features, and that happens all within MapRoulette. So MapRoulette shows you the proposed tag updates for a certain feature, and mappers can accept or reject them, or if they really want, they can also edit them, and they can commit them to OSM right away. So you don't even have to go to JOSM or ID. This is suitable for updating, for example, outdated tags, or to encourage people to add certain tags that you have already prepared. And you can see that this kind of goes into what you would typically consider an automated edit for. And automated edits are great, but of course OSM is very careful about them, and with good reason. We don't want anyone just to upload automated or mass changes for all the reasons that we probably know. But with these Tag-Fix challenges, and also with the cooperative challenges that I'll talk about in just a minute, you can basically have the benefits of updating a large amount of features, but have a mapper look at each and every one of them. So Tag-Fix challenges are the first way to do that. Cooperative challenges are different, but also aimed at achieving that same goal. So you supply basically a complete edit as someone would do it in an editor. So you can add new geometries or new features. You can change existing features, change existing tags as well. You can also delete features and provide that basically a small group of edits as a task for the mapper. The mapper then loads these tasks or these edits in JOSM as a separate new layer. Only JOSM is supported at this point because ID doesn't really work in a way that this could be supported right now. And the mapper can then still, of course, tweak the edits, add their own improvements to it, and then you basically upload it as you would usually. So we'll be looking at those 2 types of edits. And but before we continue, I'm gonna stop real quick and see if there's any questions. Yes, actually this would be possible. Thanks for the question. So if you have, for example, an external, this is actually what we're going to be looking at a little bit later. If you have a set of POIs that comes from an external source, of course with a compatible license, you could load those into MapRoulette and have people ask people to add them and confirm those. This is actually exactly the example that we're going to be looking at a little bit later. So thanks for the question. That's a good one. Now, feel free to interrupt me with voice, Jeffrey, if there's a question that is, because I can't be looking at this all the time. Okay, we're going to go back to my presentation. So, if you want to actually get your hands on with this, there's two things we need. You need to have expert mode enabled in JOSM. A lot of these steps involve JOSM in some way, right? Not just for the editing itself, but also for preparing all the edits. So you can see this is sort of a more advanced number of steps that you need to take, but it is quite a big responsibility to have this kind of challenge published. So I think it's natural that it wouldn't be too easy to do, right? We don't want anyone just to kind of upload random things for people to import without having really closely looked at them. And then also we need to install a tool called MapRoulette CLI, which is basically a command line tool. I'll share this presentation, of course, after. This has a clickable link that leads to the repository that explains how to get. It has detailed instructions about how to get that MapRoulette tool. We'll look at how it works in a little bit. So this is the first type of challenges is the tag fix that we're going to be looking at. This is suitable for mapping tasks that require updating only the tags on OSM features. So as an example, we're going to look at updating some deprecated tagging. I took one out of the deprecated tagging page from the OSM wiki, which is entrance equals gate, and the wiki clearly says that the recommended replacement is barrier equals gate. So this is a good candidate to update. Of course, the warning on the wiki is clear. Under no circumstances should you semi-automatically change deprecated tags to something else on a large scale without conforming to the automated edits code of conduct. Any such change will be reverted. And this has happened many times in the past, right, where people look at this page, find a deprecated tag, load all of the existing nodes or ways that have this tag, change them in bulk, and upload them again. These changes get immediately reverted because there's always cases where the tag is used in unexpected ways. Maybe in some communities it's still an actively used tag in spite of this information. So you can never do this. But with MapRoulette, you can have people look at each and every of the features and actually confirm that this change is appropriate. So the first step that you need to do is to perform the actual changes. So how this works is basically you load the features that you want the mappers to change in JOSM, for example using overpass, then make the actual change in JOSM on the layer selecting all the features and then changing the tag. Of course, do not upload, but then you save it as an OSM file. I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to switch to JOSM. This is going to be a little bit of a live demo here. I have several layers prepared here. But so here's the I'm going to zoom to this layer. I'm actually going to show you how to load it also. So this might be a little bit small for you to see because my screen is a little bit high resolution. But what I do here is I use the regular download function from OSM, and this is why you need expert mode, because the download from Overpass only shows up when you have expert mode enabled in JOSM, so otherwise you won't see this. So I have this Overpass query prepared that basically says give me all the nodes that have entrance equals gate as a tag, which is the deprecated one that we wanted to look at, but don't already have a barrier tag, because we're going to change entrance equals gate to barrier equals gate, and if a barrier tag already exists, we might lose that information. So those cases we want to exclude. We can look at those separately sometime, but we don't want those right now. And then we have an out statement just to load the result. I'm not going to run this right now because I already loaded them, and it can take quite a while because it's a global query, right? So the results will take a little while to load. It doesn't actually take that long, maybe 30 seconds when I did it earlier. This is the result of that overpass query. So you see that all across the world, but you can also see that there's a cluster of these in Europe, especially in Germany. This seems to be a tag that's still maybe used quite a bit. And that should already tell you, like, well, maybe we should be careful here. We don't want to give mappers something to change that might not be appropriate. So this is already, you should, at every step of the way, you should really be careful. It's like, well, is what I'm trying to do really make sense here? Again, MapRoulette is a really powerful tool. If you give it into the hands of mappers and you give them instructions that are not clear, then they might change things that people are really unhappy with, and we definitely don't want that. So you have all these entrance equals gate, basically entrance equals gate nodes, and you can just click a few of them, or maybe zoom into a few of them and see how they see what they look like. So here's oh, we actually already did the change, so let me undo that. So here's one node that has just entrance equals gate on them. Here's another one. Yeah, this one also has other tags on them. So that we already going to look at the entrance equals gate tag, right? So what we're going to do next is we're going to pretend that we're going to want to change all these things, right? So we're going to just pretend that we're going to bulk edit this. So we're going to select all these nodes, and then we're going to the tags and memberships dialog. Again, I'm sorry if this is small for you to see. So you see that all the tags, of course, are different across all these nodes, but the entrance equals gate, of course, is the same for everything, for one of them, because that's what we loaded from Overpass in the first place. And so we're going to change this one to barrier equals gate. So now we've changed how many? 1134 nodes in OSM. Of course, we don't want to upload this. That's the whole idea, right? We're not going to bulk change this. Did anyone have a question? Well, it depends. If the number of results would be really high, if there would be a large number of results, it might give you errors in Overpass. In this case, because it's only 1100 features and the query was relatively simple, I guess Overpass did not complain. There's of course other ways that you could get this information. You could filter the data from an entire planet file, which is much more work, because you first have to download the entire planet and then create the or filter it using Osmium or some other tool, which is going to be a lot more work. So Overpass is what I try first. If that doesn't work, then of course I can try a smaller region also. I can restrict the query to a certain country, which might be a good idea anyway, right? You can then talk to the local community and say, this is what I want to do, for example, in Germany or in Israel or wherever you want to update these tags. Right now, for simplicity, I take a global query, but in fact, it might be a better idea to do this region by region, so you can talk to the communities involved about this update that you want the community to help with. So in this case, it worked, but it doesn't always work. Yeah, of course. Oh, expert mode. Yeah, so you go to preferences in JOSM, and then it's all the way at the bottom left corner is a little almost hidden check mark that you can set. It's actually also, I had a screenshot in my presentation that also shows where it is. So it's in the left bottom corner of the preferences dialog. Okay, so what we have now is a file with 1134 changed nodes. What we're going to do is, of course, not upload them again, like I said. We're going to save it instead as a JOSM change file. And I already saved this before, but this is you can save it basically as an OSM file, which is a special JOSM format that contains all the changes that you made to the features and the information about the features themselves. So now you have this OSM file with the changes in them. And this is where this CLI tool comes in. Right? I'm going to switch to that right now and show you how that works. So this is a terminal window. I'm using Windows, so I'm using the Windows subsystem for Linux to get a Linux terminal. You could probably do it on a Windows command line as well. Node works on Windows, but I'm not really comfortable with that way of working. If you have a Linux machine, this should work pretty much out of the box, and on a Mac as well. So you need this MR tool installed with npm install global MapRoulette, and these instructions are in the link that is in the presentation as well. So this is what you would use to install the tool. npm will then fetch all the dependencies, etc., and will let you. We'll give you the tool. That's basically just the command is just mr, right? And if you type mr, you will get a basic help system. There's more documentation in the MRCLI GitHub README as well. So in this case, we want to create a Tag-Fix challenge, right? So this is the command to do that. It's called mr co-op. So co-op is for creating cooperative challenges, which is basically consists of both the tag challenges and the change challenges that we're talking about a little bit later. You give it an output, an output file that you want to write to. You can by default it will write to standard out, so you can also pipe it to a file. And then the input file. This is the file that we just saved in JOSM, right? This is the file that has the update from entrance equals gate to barrier equals gate. And this is what it will write. So this is the tasks file that we can then use in MapRoulette. So what this tool does is it converts an OSM file with changes in it that you save from JOSM to a JSON file that MapRoulette understands as for tasks. So you need this intermediate step to create a file that MapRoulette understands. In the future, we might incorporate this into the MapRoulette itself, but this is currently not the reality. So you need this tool to do that in between. So these are the steps that we just took. Basically, we selected all the loaded features. We use the tags and we use the tags membership panel to make the tags changes to update all the entrance equals gate to barrier equals gate. We did not upload, of course, and we then saved it as an OSM file. And then we use this terminal window and the mr command to convert the JOSM file to a MapRoulette tasks. So the tool is pretty slow. If you have 1,300 tasks. Or 1,100 tasks like we have here. This will take a few minutes even. We're working on maybe improving that. If you want to help with that, of course, you're very welcome to do so. So this is the command again that I copied here onto the presentation, so you can review that there as well. So now it's time actually finally to create the MapRoulette challenge itself. Here are the instructions. I'll actually walk you just through them to show you how that's done. If you've never created a MapRoulette challenge before, then that would be actually a good way to kind of look at that and get some experience with that. What we're going to do is I'm going to upload a GeoJSON as a source for the challenge. MapRoulette will then look at the JSON file and detect that it is a Tag-Fix challenge, so you don't have to specifically select that. And then, of course, write good instructions for the challenge, and mappers will still be able to edit the features also the normal way, so you have to keep that in mind as well. So now I'm going to switch over to MapRoulette actually. Let me find the right browser. Okay. So we're going to MapRoulette here. This is the deprecated features page. So this is the challenge that we're going to do. Actually, I'm going to start fresh, so you can also see how everything is done. So if you're logged into MapRoulette, actually let me sign out and go all the way from the beginning, in case you haven't done this before. Oops, let me go to maproulette.org. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because the JSON format is specific to MapRoulette. So there's instructions in the JSON file that tell MapRoulette what to do, that contain the work. Actually, maybe I can take a little bit of a detour. There's MapRoulette has a documentation site. I think there is. So this has a lot more background about this, what this MR command produces. And you can see here that there is specific information about the work that is that is being encoded into the JSON that tells MapRoulette how to create the challenge for. So the default JSON that you save from JOSM is this regular GeoJSON, and that MapRoulette wouldn't know that there is tag changes that you want the mappers to do. So that's why the tool needs to sit in the middle to convert that OSM change file or JOSM change file to the specific JSON format. So sign in. You just use your OSM account to sign into MapRoulette as usual. So you don't need a separate MapRoulette account or anything. It's just your OSM account that you already have. Then you go to, so there's every user of MapRoulette has this create and manage page, right? And within that, you see your projects. In this case, I have created this project. You can create as many projects as you want. This is a way to group your challenges into different into logical units. So you can work with different projects based on what kind of communities you're working with, or what kind of changes you're asking mappers to do. So here created a test project for this workshop, and within that I can create a new challenge, right? Actually I already have this one. I think, I don't know which one it is, because I created a few of them. So right now I'll just go, to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to clone this challenge instead of creating it from scratch, because I already wrote all the instructions as an example. So what clone will do is basically to exactly copy an existing challenge. Except for the name. So if you have a challenge that's very similar to the one you already have, you can use this function. What it will do is basically show you the new challenge wizard, right? This is what that wizard looks like. It's just a series of questions. A lot of them are optional, and there's a lot of detail that you can add to your challenge. So I'm going to call this updates outdated tagging for entrance equals gate. And then you select, I want to upload a GeoJSON file, and this is where you then would select your GeoJSON file that you just created using the tool. So then you go on to write a description for your challenge. This is how people find your challenge in the search function. This is not the instructions. So you write a brief description of what the challenge is about. In this case, I wrote the entrance equals gate tag is deprecated and should be replaced with barrier equals gate. The challenge asks mappers to make that change to the nodes that still have this tag, and I categorize it as a point of interest. That's the closest I could. You can also choose other, I guess, in this case. And here's where the instructions then live. I wrote quite detailed instructions about what I want mappers to do. It says this OSM node has the tag entrance equals gate that is deprecated, which means it should no longer be used. And that's literally what it says on the wiki. The OSM wiki states that it should be replaced with barrier equals gate. In this task, this change has been made for you. Please confirm that barrier equals gate is the appropriate tag for this node. If you're not sure, please skip it. So this is what I often write, right? If mappers get confused about whether this is appropriate change, asking them to just skip it, which means that someone else might be able to solve it. And then I also added a link to the wiki for people to review entrance tags. I could add more links here. This is Markdown. So standard links, or you can add anything that you could use in Markdown, which is the markup language that is used also on GitHub and many other places. So this is what a looks like in Markdown. So you can add links, you can add, you can format your text, you can add headers, you can write a whole, you can use the full spectrum of Markdown markup basically. Then you choose a difficulty for your tasks. I usually, unless it's really hard or really easy, I usually stick with normal. Whether your challenge is discoverable or not. So I usually set this to no at first, because I want to first test the challenge myself. And this means that it wouldn't appear in the list of challenges yet. And you can always switch this later, right? So usually I set this to no at first. Then you can set some keywords that help people find the challenge. You can flag it as requiring local knowledge, which would help. Which would also show up in the challenge description. You can pre-fill the change set description that would be added to the change set when mappers upload the change. The MapRoulette hashtag will automatically be added. You can add a change set source if you have a third-party source. In this case, we don't, so we leave that empty. We can also include the change set URL in the change set description. So if a mapper comes and looks at this change set later that you upload using the MapRoulette task, then they will be able to go to this challenge and see what MapRoulette challenge led to this change. And you can choose all kinds of more optional things. You can see what base map users mappers see when they load the task. You can choose from all the ones that are available in the editors as well. And there's lots of more detailed settings that you can add, but we're going to not look at those right now for the sake of time, because it's already 35 minutes past the hour. Yeah. Oh, the same name, right? Yes, and well, I know that this has been a question that has been asked a few times. What happens is actually that challenges that are deleted are not they are removed from the application, but they still exist in the database. The reason for that is that we want to have a history of why people make changes, right? If something happens on the OSM side, people have comments about the edits that are made via MapRoulette. I always want to be able to see the history of these, of what led to these changes. If we delete the challenges altogether, then the instructions would be lost, and we would never be able to talk about the challenge that led to certain changes. So that's why I want to keep the history around, keep the challenge around. We might work to improve that situation, because I understand that that's a limitation. We might remove that in the future. Best way to bring those things to my attention, is to just file a ticket on the GitHub. /OSM lab/MapRoulette3. So here's a bunch of issues that people filed, and you can just add to that. It's easy to add a new issue here if you have questions about, or feature requests or bug reports about MapRoulette. So I created this challenge. You can see here that here's all the same nodes that we basically saw on the JOSM, but now as represented as MapRoulette tasks. So now the challenge is done. I actually didn't create it just now, because I've already created it before. So I don't want it to be discoverable. So you see it's easy to switch between yes and no. You see the basic metrics from your challenge. Of course, we don't have anything fixed yet. Well, I did a few to test, and that's it. So now I can basically start the challenge, which means that I want to look at these. I want to look at these tasks, right? So here you see the difference between a regular challenge and a tag change challenge. You see this dialog that was not here in regular challenges. You see basically the tag changes are clearly laid out. So you can see that there was an entrance equals gate, which is going to be removed. And you can see the barrier equals gate that is going to be added. And also the completion dialog is also different. It says, are the proposed OSM tag changes correct? yes, no, skip, and there's a few other ones that I'm going to leave out right now. And also you can still go in to OSM and edit it as usual. So you don't have to click any of these. If you edit it, then you can just complete the task as usual. And then here you see some optional. Here's the instructions. Actually, I put them further down. By default, they would be in a different place. You can edit these layouts to suit your needs, right? You can change this around, and it will remember it for you. So in this case, if the mapper is confident that this is a correct change, then they can click yes. Otherwise, they click no. Here, of course, they can get additional information. They can load the OSM data right in here, so that they can see what's going on without loading it into the editor. You can actually see that this is probably that this is a node that looks like it's part of a fence around the building, around this garden. And if I'm confident that this is correct change, you can see that there's no other tags on this node. I can click yes, and then I can confirm that this is the change comment that I want to make. This is the change comment that I filled in when I created the challenge. I can also create a comment that is within the MapRoulette system, so the person who created the challenge would be able to see those comments, and other mappers would be as well. So then I can submit it, and this will use my OSM account, of course, that gets used for MapRoulette to make the change. And then I go as usual to the next task. So if I now go to my change sets, then I will see here the most recent change set is this one that was just made by created by MapRoulette. It says by in the tags, so you can see here that this change was made for me. So I'm going to stop here for a moment and see if there's any more questions. I don't see any in the chat or in the questions tab. Yeah, no, I don't see any in the. But if there's questions right at this moment, I'm going to stop for just a little bit before I move on to the cooperative challenges. But if you have questions, please use the questions tab, and Jeffrey will interrupt me to make sure that I get them. I mean, this is a workshop in the end, so I'm happy to be interrupted. It's no problem. Okay, I want to reshare my screen. Back to my presentation. So one thing I actually skipped over is when you after you made this challenge, please, what I recommend and what I actually would almost require people to do is to go through a few of these challenges yourself, and also ask some others, right? Before you publish the challenge, get a few of your fellow mappers, have them do a few of these tasks and see if it makes sense, especially if you've never done it before, because everyone using MapRoulette will be able to see your tasks, and they will be able to make the changes. And if they don't understand what it's about, or it's not clear, then people will make changes that might not be good. So you always want to check your challenge, look at a few tasks. Maybe you can also just skip them and just look at a few more and see if they make sense. For example, do we have the right base map? You can always change this later. You can still edit your challenge, right, and make it display a different base map. You can also use, of course, OpenStreetMap itself. Have people carefully look at the instructions, see if that's clear. In this case, I haven't done that yet, so I would not publish this challenge without talking to a few other mappers and see what they think. And so what you can do is if you click on the challenge, you can share this link, and it will work. Like people can, if you know the link, you can still access this challenge, right? And you can share it with friends, but it won't be here. It won't be visible here in the Find Challenges list. Yeah. Is that about? I'm assuming that's about actually kind of solving tasks, right? I think is what you're asking. So actually, we're in the right place for that. If you go to MapRoulette as a mapper, if you're not out to create challenges, you would go to the Find Challenges tab, and then you basically you can just start scrolling through this list. You see some of the more popular ones that are currently being worked on a lot at the top, and then usually there's one or two featured ones. Here's one that I favorited myself. You can that I want to work on in the future. You can also search by name. So if you, for example, if you search for road, then it will show challenges that have the word road in the name or the description. You can also use the map to zoom in, and it will only show challenges that have tasks in that area. If you zoom even further in, you can also you can actually see the individual tasks. And you can this is tasks that are across all the different challenges that have tasks in this region, right? So you can then zoom in even further and say, okay, well, what is this task about, right? This is about updating phone and fax numbers. So you can actually look at individual tasks, and if you're interested in a particular region, what you can even do is you can use this lasso tool, is what we call it, right? To draw an area. And then it will basically, what it will do is it will let you create what we call a virtual challenge that will just have all these tasks in it in this town, and you can, for example, use that for a mapping party, right? If you have a mapping party with your local community, you can create this virtual challenge that contains all these tasks in this area, and that you tasks for mapping party. Again, going a little bit off topic here, but this is kind of an interesting function, I think. So you have now this virtual challenge that will pop up here, and you can share this URL with your friends that you're mapping together with, and that will only have the tasks in that certain area. But it will be different challenges, right? Because the tasks are selected by region instead of by challenge. So you basically use this this find challenges window or screen to filter, search, and find a challenge to work on. Once you find the challenge that you want to work on, you go to its page and you click start, and that's when you get the first random task for that challenge. And then you can see if you want to participate in this one. You can also skip the tasks if they're not interesting to you. If this challenge is something that you're not interested in after all, and you go back to find challenges and find something else that you are interested in. So this is the hub basically to find interesting work, the work that you might find interesting to participate in. I hope that answers the question a little bit. So that basically concludes the part about the tag fix. Like the other type of challenges where you can actually make edits is very similar. The process is very similar, but there are subtle differences that are important to point out. So let me go over that, and then we can. Okay, I hope to open it up for at least a few minutes of questions because we're already 10 to the hour almost. So yeah, here's the result for that challenge that I just showed you already. So we can move on to the next type. So these cooperative challenges are interesting. These are really useful for if you want to, for example, the question that we had earlier, right? About adding POIs from an external source. So of course you would be very careful about the license. You have to make sure that everything checks out and that the data is actually good to add to OSM. So this would go, instead of an automated import, you could do this like what I call a community import, where you basically create this cooperative challenge with all the POIs already in there, and you can have mappers go over them one by one and add them. So that's the example we're going to be looking at in this last 10 minutes. Yeah. Yes, we're coming to that. So let's look at how this works. I think I'm going to address your question. If not, then please let me know. But I think I'm going to address your question in the next few slides. So the first step is here is this is definitely a more complicated step. So you want mappers to add new information, right? That comes potentially from an external source. You can use this challenge type for other things as well, but this is an example that I like. Of course, you check the license first, right? You can't just go in and import and have and add whatever to OpenStreetMap, as we all know. Then in this case, I'm looking at schools in the state where I live in Utah, in the USA. I found this data set from the state of Utah that is compatible in license, that I confirmed actually with the state that I can use. So I asked the people at the state, can I use this for OSM? And they wrote to me and said yes. And then we need to, of course, look at what the schools are that are already in OSM, and make sure that we don't create duplicates, right? So I used QGIS to look at the existing schools in OSM and deduplicated basically the schools. This is a whole separate topic. I can do a separate workshop on that if you want. But the result basically of that process is that I have a file that only contains the schools from the state database that are not in OSM yet. If you're interested in learning more about how I did that, let me know. I'm happy to do a separate workshop or do a screencast sometime on YouTube or something to show you how that's done. So the stars in QGIS are the schools that are to be added in OSM. And again, I'm saving this as a GeoJSON file, so I can load it into JOSM. And then basically we need to make sure, of course, that the tagging is compatible with OSM. I can do that in QGIS. Actually, I can do all of the preparation in QGIS to make sure that all the tags are ready for loading into JOSM. Once I have this, I basically have a file in JOSM that has all the schools that I want to add, right? And all the information. This is all information from the state file that I got. So it has an address on it. It has amenity equals school, which I added. It has the grades even, it has the name, it has the phone number, it has a website. So all the information that comes from the state data website is in there. And these are all the schools that are not in OSM yet, that I analyze in QGIS. And again, I saved this as an OSM file. That's the same. I used the same MRCLI tool, just with a few different parameters, right? I use, instead of let me see if I still have that in my history. Yes. So I use, instead of, and this is in the presentation as well, I use, instead of MRCoop tag, I use MRCoop change to create a change challenge that actually adds new features. So I have the output file, the input file. This is the same as before. And again, the tool is a little bit slow. Actually, for this type of task, it seems to be much faster. I don't know why yet. So once we have this tasks file, again, we create this new challenge, right? We use the same technique. I want to upload GeoJSON, and it will detect that it is a cooperative challenge with new tasks, with new features. And then again, mappers will also be able to edit features the normal way. So what that looks like in MapRoulette, that's what I'll show you as a final thing. Okay, this is irrelevant. This is the original file that I got from the state. In fact, here's the MapRoulette wizard. This is the same wizard, right? It's not, you don't do anything special. MapRoulette will look at the GeoJSON file and detect from the work that we did with the MRCLI tool. It will detect what type of challenge it is. And then we say, well, we make a description. We do all the things that we did before. We write detailed instructions, and then we do all the other things that we did before for the other challenge as well. So what we end up with then and I'm going to show you how that editing works, because I think it's an interesting an interesting sort of mechanism that the mapper gets presented to them. So we start the challenge. So we see this new node here that identifies a school. Actually, you see on the aerial image that it looks like when the image was taken, they were still building it. So it is in fact a new school. And you see here that for editing options, there's only edit in JOSM because, like I said, edit and ID is not supported for this type of challenge because the mechanism is just not there to transfer these edits into ID. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know. If you click edit, it will create the layer in JOSM. Actually, let me find my JOSM. Here it is. So here it will load already all the features around it, and it will load also this new feature that is from the data. Here you want the mappers to be really careful because you can see that already on the building there's already also some information about the school. So that's why mappers still need to, of course, review this and not just upload this. If you were to upload this, this is what you would see. You would just add basically. This is just basically normal OSM editing. The only thing that MapRoulette does is here already add this new node that mappers can then further inspect and update. So in this case, like I said, there's already a school there, a building. What I could do is copy over the tags to the building and delete the node. And then you could upload. You can check this further. It has all the new tags that I have here with the website, the phone number. The name was already there. It has the grades now too. So now the mapper would be ready to upload and go on to the next task and switch back to MapRoulette and say I fixed it. In this case, of course, I didn't do that. So I'm going to skip it. And then we'll go on to the next one. So for each. So this is the power of this type of challenge. Really, to conclude, is that if you go to JOSM, the node is already there. So all the mapper needs to do is to verify the new POI and upload it. And they don't have to do any other work. In the simplest case, of course, you always want the mappers to review the work and see if there's already information there that you're duplicating, if all the tags are correct. So it's mappers, of course, should not blindly just upload these things. Okay, so this is important, and I want to take the last few minutes to talk about this. The golden rules of MapRoulette challenges. The very most important thing, of course, is to, except for checking the license, which is you always need to do when you're working with external data, is provide clear and unambiguous instructions to mappers. This is the absolute most important thing. Test your challenges. Make sure that you've tried a few tasks, that you've shown it to fellow mappers to see if it makes sense. Be responsive to feedback. Right? If you get comments within MapRoulette, make sure that you address them and make sure that you come back to MapRoulette to see how your challenge is doing. Discuss it with the community. I already said this. Check the license. I already said this actually too. I should put it higher up. And don't what I call hit and run. You don't post your challenge and never come back. Log into MapRoulette again. See how it's doing. See if you got any comments. You'll also get emails from time to time if MapRoulette users get in touch with you. We're actually working on a new feature that introduces comments for challenges, so you can actually see comments for the challenge that you created that mappers add there. So you'll be able to interact with your mappers in that way. Please remember these golden rules. They're really important. We want MapRoulette to be a good OSM citizen. And your mappers to do the right things that you're working with. Okay, this took a little bit longer. I hope that I had more like 10 minutes for Q&A, but I only have 3. But of course, we can gather in the post talk chat room also to discuss any of this more. And again, if you want to learn more about the QGIS stuff that I did, let me know. Drop me a line, and we can do a separate workshop on that. So I see a couple more questions. I see a couple more questions. I'm back in the screen now, so I can read it myself. Jeffrey, thanks. Is it possible to use MapRoulette to add new POI over ID based on prepared JSON with regular challenges? So this is the question that you asked a little bit before. So the answer is for ID, no, because ID doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't support loading tasks loading new data from an external source. If it does, then I'm happy to add it to MapRoulette, but currently this is a JSON type challenge only. The other question that I see here is, could you make the new schools JSON available? Because I think that sort of change is not described in the documentation in the line-by-line area. Yes, I can. If the person who asked that question could drop me a line, I'm happy to give it to you in the direct messages or on Twitter if you're on Twitter, or write me an email or send me a message through the OSM messaging system. I am MVEXEL. Yeah, so that's I'm happy to do that. All right, I think we're at the top of the hour. Yeah, almost. So if there's any final questions, feedback for me, I will be in the post-talk chat room after this. If you have any additional questions, I thought this was really fun to do. Again, this presentation was recorded by me. So if that all worked, then I'm going to be publishing this for other people to watch later. So again, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference. It's super fun being here and meeting all of you virtually, and have a great rest of the conference. Thanks so much.